Morning. So today, if you'll indulge me, I'd like to go back all the way to antiquity, in fact, to the 5th century BC, and the book of Nehemiah. And then I'd like you to join me in the Nehemiah challenge. Let me explain. You may recall that at that time, Nebuchadnezzar and the Babylonians had destroyed Jerusalem. They took part of the population into exile into Babylonia, some dispersed into Judea, and some remained in what was left of the great city. Nehemiah, a Jew, was born in exile. He attained an influential position in the Persian court and was sent to Judea as provisional governor. And his job was to rebuild the walls and fortifications of Jerusalem. Well, he set about that work with great gusto, enlisting the help of all the people of Jerusalem. And amazingly, he rebuilt the walls, those enormous building blocks, in what seems to be an undisputed 52 days. So how did he achieve such a huge task in such an enormous time? Well, of course, the first thing he did was to put to work the priests and all their friends, and they rebuilt the sheep gate. And then he got the sons of Hassanah and their friends, and they built the fish gate. And then the sons of Paseah and Besodiah and their friends, and they rebuilt the old gate. And then Hananiah and his friends restored the broad wall. Well, yes, you've got the picture. The scripture does go on about all the families that did their part to rebuild the walls in less than 2 months, enabling the Jews of Judea and the first diaspora to return to Jerusalem. Now, check it out. It's all in here. Page 432. So it's an inspiring story. And we at Union Kong also know our share about rebuilding buildings and restoring walls. But I mention Nehemiah now in the context of the challenges we find ourselves in the stewardship area, and the need to rebuild not only walls, but something just as important, our pledging base. Please be assured that we have cash in the bank and can pay our bills. But the need to rebuild our annual financial and stewardship base is fundamental to our future as a vibrant congregation. The issue is not expenses. The staff and leadership and committee members are doing an excellent job of the control of these. But the fact is that our pledge income for several years has now been on a steady slide down. Our pledges for 2013 are, taking into account inflation, close to 20% lower than they were just 3 or 4 years ago. And the number of pledging units has reduced by 13%. We must reverse this slide now. We must. We all know that this is a fantastic congregation, warm, welcoming, spiritual, supporting, with great programs of outreach, worship, education, music, youth, pastoral care, side door, drama. And we all want to develop those programs and to grow them to further the total ministry of our church. Team Union. The challenging fact is that we won't be able to do this. And rather, we may even have to reduce some of those programs if we're not successful in rebuilding our pledging base. So, I'm asking the whole congregation to take the Nehemiah challenge. Yes, the Nehemiah challenge. By the end of the year, in Nehemiah's 52 days, to take both steps to rebuild our stewardship base and further our congregational vitality. First, to make our pledge, and if at all possible, to increase that pledge today. Second, to put in motion the introduction to our church of prospective new members. So, the tithing part. Today's bulletin features the beautiful image of a child delighting in giving a delicious prayer. The child probably doesn't think that he is giving back one of God's gifts, but we as Christians understand the significance. The image is inspired, as you know, by St. Paul's second letter to the Corinthians, chapter 9:6. God loves a cheerful giver. But you know, it's not really so complicated. Everything we have on loan is from God. The earth is the Lord's, and everything in it. Psalm 21, verse 1. We just need to figure out how much of God's financial resources we're going to give back to God. Every pledge, small or large, is an act of faith and is greatly welcomed and individually appreciated. So, how much should we give? As pledges, we consider what we have been given by the Lord and mindfully reflect and pray on what is the appropriate proportion of our household income that should be pledged to Union Cong. We all know that our Bible tells us to give 10% of our income. Right, it's easy for me to say, and perhaps only a minority do. But as Christians, we need to put ourselves onto the path to the goal of proportional giving, proportional to our resources, and increase annually the proportion of our income that we give until we reach the 10% goal. If this congregation were a social club or a professional society or even one of the other religious orders, we would be told how much to give. But in the Union Church of Christ, we're on the honor system. The brochure that was created thanks to the flair of David Oscar, David Joard, and Faith Wozniak, it includes a chart of the pledge amount based on various household incomes, with the percentages increasing from left to right. I know that in some matters, some see us as a left-leaning church. But let's learn a little bit further to the right. And if we were giving 4 or 3% of our household income, let's see if we can move to 5 or 6. And if we're giving 5 or 6, let's see if we can move to 6 or 7. We sing that at Union Congregational Church, we welcome all wherever they are on life's journey. And in some ways, tithing is a journey. Many of us don't give 10% day one. But we move towards that biblical goal. We shouldn't just be giving God, we should be giving back to God the first fruits of our income, and not just what is left over. We should be paying God off the top. And when we compute the percentage of our income and ask, is that before or after tax, Roger? Well, okay. Now, let's remember, Uncle Sam is our partner here, okay, and the pledges are usually tax deductible. For reference, the amount you pledged in 2013 is clearly shown in the second quarter statement that you received last month. If circumstances change, your 2014 pledge can be amended during the year. I know increasing our individual pledges may be difficult, and many of us live with uncertain finances and daily financial pressures. In this regard, last year, one of our witnessing stewards shared that her family had consolidated all of their various charitable giving into their Union Kong pledge. Because the values of our church and the broad programs of our church are so aligned with their own thinking. In fact, to me, it's clear that you won't find a better bang for the buck in your personal giving program than you find right here at Union Kong. Frankly, when you think about it, we have it easy in the matter of tithing. Just imagine what it was like for Mary and Joseph and Jesus and his brothers and sisters when they had to go every Passover from Nazareth to Jerusalem. Several days by foot, dangerous, hard. And then when you got to Jerusalem, you were at the mercy of the money changers and buying a sacrificial lamb. We have it easy. Some people also find that since the capital campaign of the last few years, and now it'll be over in a month or two, perhaps they will find the ability to pledge further because of that. So, as you complete your pledge cards today, and remembering to indicate whether you want envelopes, that's Angie's message to me, I must do that, let's see the joy on all the face and fill this sanctuary with delight. So, that's point one on the tithing, but point two on the prospective members is equally important. We can't rely only on increasing individual pledges, and it's absolutely essential that we broaden the base of our membership. I ask you, with a church so amazing as this, why is it still kept Montclair's best-kept secret? Come on, let's share and expand the circle of love. Union Congregational Church can show that it can be done. Come on, Team Union. Let's also delight in sharing the great gifts of our church with our friends, our relatives, those lapsed members, and all those in need of an inspirational open home and a warm and supporting community. Let's start now in this process because inevitably it takes time. It takes time to identify who it is that you're going to invite, the right time to invite, the right time to have that conversation. They're coming here to an event or a service here at the church, their deliberation, and then the work of Steve Harms and his team and the Welcome Committee. Then they become members, then making the pledge and the commitments, and then building that tithe commitment. It takes time. We've got to start now. In this way, we will build the blocks, just like Nehemiah did 2,500 years ago, in his wall and in our pledging base. Tom and Barbara, they're spreading the word. It's up to us to fill the pews. So, let's be inspired by a remarkable group of witnessing stewards who shared with us such stories. 3 weeks ago, a wonderful young woman, Lena Koshik, told us with heart, humour, graphics, how Union Kong has been so foundational for her life, and with, I'm sure, many chapters of that yet to be written. 2 weeks ago, Dick and Marilyn Batchelder educated us on the pioneering history of Congregational Church, and of which we can be proud, celebrating diversity in every form, and bringing us also back to the 1975 fire and the congregation's resiliency. And last week, Andy Russell told us a remarkable story of family continuity within the Congregational Church, one that he can be proud of, and one that I think many of us would love for our own families. So, which one of our Christian friends and family and acquaintances would not want to be engaged with a community with such values as ours? And with the growth of attendance and membership, this will surely lead to a great upswing in the pledging units and strengthen our programs. From a stewardship brochure and the annual report, you'll see that total pledges this year totaled a little over $500,000. The average pledge was about $3,000, and that's what it does take to run the church. Some of us could do more. me included. I hope you'll join me in moving up another notch this year. But here's the very, very good news. The good news is that over 80% of the outgoings of our church are essentially fixed. Buildings, staff, administration, and with less than 20% variable to spend directly on programs and outreach. So we have the platform. We have an amazing platform here, and we could do so much more. For example, if we were to increase the pledges by 25%, we could actually double the funds that go directly to the actual programs, to that energy. So I invite you to take the Nehemiah challenge. In the next 52 days, by December 31st, let's take those 2 steps. Increase our pledges and put in motion the process to identify and to introduce new members to rebuild our financial health, just as Nehemiah did so long ago.